I was checking line 2's bearing temperature when my phone buzzed. Text from Gordon Walsh, my plant director. Rodney, we're promoting Diana Lopez to operations director instead of you. She brings fresh MBA perspective. Accountsman at 2 p.m. No meeting. No explanation. Just a text after 18 years of keeping Pierce Manufacturing running. The company my father built with his bare hands. I'm Rodney Pierce, 47 years old, and this place has been my life since Dad handed me the keys before he passed. Started here right after high school, learned everything from the ground up. Dad always said the Pierce name meant something in this industry. Quality work, reliable delivery, treating people right. I set the phone down on my maintenance clipboard and walked out to the production floor. The conveyor hum sounded different now, like equipment running past tolerance specs. Gordon was standing near quality control, coffee in hand, talking to Diana like she'd just solved our throughput problems. She had her MBA from some business school and a confident smile that looked good in boardroom presentations. What she didn't have was any understanding of how our operation actually functioned. I'd been training her for 4 months, showing her the preventive maintenance schedules I developed, the lean processes that cut our waste by 22% and dropped operating costs 15%. The vendor relationships Dad built and I maintained for 18 years. She took detailed notes, asked intelligent questions, and apparently decided my position looked more appealing than her current role. When I reached them, Gordon handed me an envelope. "Thanks for mentoring Diana," he said. "She's really absorbed your operational philosophy, my operational philosophy. That's what we were calling Dad's legacy now." I opened the envelope while they watched. Inside was a performance review and a lateral transfer to senior technical advisor. Same pay, reduced authority, and a desk instead of an office. They wanted me to document my processes, train my replacement, then step aside quietly. I folded the papers and put them in my shirt pocket. "When does this take effect?" "Monday," Gordon said. "Diana's got some innovative efficiency projects planned." Efficiency projects using the process documentation I'd spent 18 years refining, the maintenance protocols that kept our downtime under 2%, the supplier agreements Dad negotiated personally and I'd maintained through handshake deals and consistent performance. My wife Helen had been counting on this promotion. We talked about it over dinner for months. The salary increase would help with Michelle's college expenses and finally pay off the house early. Now I'd have to explain why 18 years of dedication to Dad's company wasn't sufficient. But here's what they didn't understand. For the past 6 months, I'd been having discussions with Vincent Shaw, who runs Shaw Industries about 30 miles north. What started as vendor meetings had evolved into something more substantial. Vincent appreciated old-school reliability over PowerPoint optimization theories. That afternoon, I cleaned out my office. 18 years of documentation, vendor contacts, process improvements, and troubleshooting protocols went into boxes. Not out of bitterness, but because it belonged to me. Developed through my experience with Dad's guidance. Refined through years of solving real problems, never formally documented in company databases. The preventive maintenance schedules I'd created. Personal notes based on watching equipment fail and learning the warning signs. The vendor relationships that secured us priority service and volume discounts, built through keeping promises and maintaining trust. The lean manufacturing processes that improved our efficiency ratings, developed through trial and error across nearly 2 decades of operations. I left copies of official procedures, but the real knowledge, the experience that made those procedures effective, walked out with me. Monday morning, Diana moved into my office. Fresh nameplate, new whiteboard covered in MBA terminology like synergistic optimization and data-driven efficiency metrics. She called an all-hands meeting to introduce her vision. "We're revolutionizing our approach," she announced. "Rodney established solid groundwork, but it's time to advance beyond traditional methods and embrace innovation." The floor supervisors exchanged glances. Carl Martinez, who'd worked alongside me for 14 years, just shook his head. These guys understood the difference between theory and application. By Wednesday, problems started surfacing. Line 2 went down for scheduled maintenance, but the documentation Diana was following didn't include the specific torque specifications for our bearing assemblies. Standard procedure indicated 50 feet will be. Experience taught me 47 for our particular setup due to ambient temperature fluctuations. They torqued to 50. Bearing failed within 4 hours. 6-hour production delay waiting for replacement components. Thursday brought vendor issues. Our primary supplier, Richardson Materials needed to discuss delivery schedules. Diana scheduled a formal meeting with contracts and presentations. What she didn't realize was that Richardson had been flexible with us for years because of personal relationships. Steve Richardson and I went back to Dad's time. We'd worked through supply shortages, payment delays, and quality issues with verbal agreements. Steve called me directly. "Rodney, what's happening over there?" "This new person wants to renegotiate everything. Says she's optimizing vendor relationships." I told him I wasn't involved anymore. He said Richardson would honor existing contracts but wouldn't extend special accommodations going forward. No priority deliveries, no volume discount pricing. Everything strictly by contract terms. By the second week, deterioration was obvious. Production efficiency dropped 18%. Maintenance costs increased because they were using generic procedures instead of equipment-specific protocols. 2 suppliers stopped offering preferred pricing. Carl started texting me updates, not because I asked, but because he was watching Dad's systems collapse in real time. "She's bringing in consultants," he wrote, "going to analyze our processes and recommend improvements." The same processes Dad and I had built through years of hands-on problem solving. Now they'd pay consultants $180 per hour to reinvent what they already had. Meanwhile, I was getting established at Shaw Industries. Vincent's operation was smaller but more focused. Family-owned, 3 generations of building quality products without corporate complications. When I explained what I could contribute to their operation, Vincent didn't request presentations or data projections. "Show me," he said. I spent 3 weeks analyzing their production flow, identified bottlenecks they'd been managing around for years, proposed modifications to their preventive maintenance program, suggested vendor consolidation that could reduce material costs 14%. Vincent gave me complete authority. "You've been doing this longer than my nephew's been alive. Make it work." And it worked. Within 6 weeks, we'd improved line efficiency 15%, reduced downtime by 40%, streamlined supply chains so deliveries arrived when needed, not when convenient for suppliers. The equipment hummed with that steady rhythm that tells you everything's calibrated properly. Temperature readings stayed consistent. Vibration levels within acceptable parameters. Vincent offered equity participation, not just employment, but ownership stake in improvements I created. After 18 years of generating profits for others, someone finally wanted to share the benefits. Back at Pierce Manufacturing, conditions kept deteriorating. The consultants completed their analysis and recommended implementing optimized lean manufacturing protocols. Essentially, they reverse-engineered Dad's systems, gave them academic names, and charged $75,000 for the privilege, but implementation was catastrophic. The consultants understood methodology, not application. They recognized procedures, but missed context. Equipment requiring specific handling received generic treatment. Suppliers needing personal relationships got form letters. Carl's updates became more frequent. 4th, equipment failure this month. Gordon's looking worried. Diana's blaming legacy equipment and inherited inefficiencies. That's what they called 18 years of maintaining Dad's operation profitably. The breaking point arrived during their 3rd month of consultant-driven improvements. Line 1 shut down completely. Not scheduled maintenance, but catastrophic gear failure that should have been prevented by proper monitoring protocols. The kind Dad taught me to recognize through sound patterns and vibration analysis. But Diana's team was following consultant recommendations, not practical experience. They missed the acoustic warning signs, ignored the vibration data, and pushed equipment beyond safe parameters because their metrics indicated acceptable ranges. 14-hour shutdown, emergency parts replacement, overtime crews working through the weekend, customer delivery delays triggering penalty clauses. The cascading failure that happens when you replace institutional knowledge with theoretical frameworks. Carl texted me a photo from the plant floor. Diana's in Gordon's office getting lectured. Word is corporate wants explanations. I looked at that image without satisfaction. Just disappointment that 18 years of Dad's legacy was being destroyed because someone confused credentials with competence. At Shaw Industries, we were hitting our stride. The efficiency improvements I'd implemented were generating substantial profits. Vincent was discussing expansion. We'd secured 3 major contracts by underbidding competitors who couldn't match our cost structure. "Rodney," Vincent said one afternoon, "how would you feel about becoming operations partner? Full authority, equity stake, and we're establishing profit sharing for floor supervisors." Operations partner. The position I'd been denied at Dad's company, but with genuine authority and shared ownership at a place that valued results over politics. Helen was excited when I told her that evening. The salary increase was significant, but the equity stake was transformative. For the first time in 18 years, my expertise would build wealth for our family instead of just generating profits for someone else. You've earned this, she said. 18 years of them taking you for granted. Now they'll see what they lost. The irony improved. 8 months after I joined Shaw, we started competing directly with Pierce Manufacturing. Same customer base, similar products, but we could deliver faster and cheaper because our operation actually functioned. Our maintenance schedules prevented failures instead of reacting to them. Our supplier relationships meant priority treatment and volume discounts. Our processes were refined through experience, not theory. The first major contract we won was significant. Industrial equipment supplier that had worked with Pierce Manufacturing for years. When they opened bidding, Shaw came in 20% lower with better delivery schedules. Carl texted me that night. Heard you guys won the Patterson account. Gordon called emergency management meeting. Deanna saying we need to reassess our competitive position. Reassess our competitive position. She was learning that process documentation without understanding is just expensive paperwork. More contracts followed. Our efficient operation could underbid the bloated bureaucracy I'd left behind. Customers who remembered my reliability followed the work to Shaw. Suppliers who valued relationship-based business gave us priority treatment. The equipment supplier who'd switched called Vincent directly. Your operations partner, Rodney, used to work at our previous vendor. We followed him here because he actually delivers promises, rare these days. Word spreads quickly in manufacturing. Customers communicate with other customers. Suppliers compare experiences. When you've built trust over decades, people remember. And when that trust leaves one company, it doesn't disappear, it relocates. Within 10 months, Pierce Manufacturing was in serious difficulty. Equipment failures were constant because they'd abandoned maintenance protocols that actually worked in favor of consultant-recommended optimization. Production delays were damaging customer relationships. They'd cycled through 4 different consulting firms trying to solve problems Dad could have prevented with one phone call. The final blow came when their biggest customer, Morrison Industries, terminated their contract early. Quality issues, delivery delays, and communication problems had eroded a relationship that took Dad years to build. Morrison's purchasing manager called me the day after cancellation. Rodney, heard you're at Shaw now. We've got manufacturing requirements coming up. You interested in bidding? Just like that. A $2.8 million annual contract walked out of Pierce Manufacturing's portfolio into ours. Not because we pursued it, but because competence has a reputation that follows you. Then came the call I'd been anticipating. Gordon's number appeared on my phone at 9:15 on a Friday morning. Rodney, we need to discuss something. Can you come in today? I could hear desperation under his professional tone. Production problems were becoming financial losses. Customer complaints were turning into contract terminations. Corporate was demanding answers Gordon couldn't provide. I've got 45 minutes at 3 p.m., I told him. When I walked into his office that afternoon, Gordon looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 months. Diana was there too, laptop open, looking defensive. The whiteboard behind her still had those MBA buzzwords, but now they looked like evidence of failure rather than innovation. We're experiencing operational challenges, Gordon began. Transition difficulties. We hoped you might consult on technical matters. Technical matters. They wanted to hire me back as contractor to repair problems created by replacing me. What kind of technical matters? I asked. Diana spoke up. We're having equipment reliability issues and supplier relationship complications. Your institutional knowledge could help optimize our troubleshooting protocols. Institutional knowledge, supplier relationship complications. She was describing the collapse of everything Dad built, using business school language to avoid admitting mistakes. You want me to fix problems you created by getting rid of me, I said. Gordon shifted uncomfortably. It's not that simple, Rodney. We value your expertise. We're prepared to offer competitive consulting rates. What rates? $140 per hour. Temporary basis. I almost smiled. They were willing to pay me $140 hourly to rebuild systems I'd maintained for years at regular salary. And when finished, Diana would receive credit for resolving operational challenges. I appreciate the offer, I said, but I'm not available. Gordon's face went pale. Rodney, be reasonable. We can negotiate terms. I'm being reasonable, I said. You decided you didn't need my expertise. Turns out you were wrong. That's not my concern anymore. I left that meeting knowing they were in real trouble. Equipment failures were increasing. Costs were climbing. Customer satisfaction was declining. Their solution was throwing consulting money at problems requiring experience. 4 weeks later, Carl texted me with news that completed the circle. Diana got terminated today. Board meeting this morning. Gordon's announcing early retirement next month. The house of cards had collapsed, not because I pushed it, but because I removed the foundation and took it somewhere that appreciated its value. At Shaw Industries, we were preparing for major expansion. Success we'd achieved attracted attention from a large manufacturing consortium. They wanted to discuss long-term partnership that would double our production capacity. Vincent called me into his office before the meeting. Rodney, this is your presentation. You built what they want to purchase. I want you leading negotiations. The consortium meeting exceeded expectations. They'd researched our efficiency improvements, spoken with customers. What impressed them most wasn't equipment or facilities, but operational consistency. Your reliability metrics are outstanding, their lead negotiator said. 14 months of on-time delivery, 0 quality complaints, industry-leading cost structure. How do you maintain that performance? Experience, I told him. We don't chase theories, we solve problems. They offered a 4-year partnership worth $15 million annually. Guaranteed volume, premium pricing and profit-sharing incentives for meeting performance targets, the kind of agreement that transforms a family business into industry leader. That evening, Helen and I celebrated at the restaurant where we had our first date 23 years ago. The equity stake I'd earned at Shaw was now worth serious money. Michelle's college expenses were covered. The mortgage would be paid off within 18 months. Financial security I'd never imagined was suddenly achievable. You know what the best part is? Helen said. It's not the money, it's seeing you respected for what you do instead of taken for granted. She was right. For 18 years, I'd been treated like overhead expense instead of valuable asset. Now my expertise was generating wealth instead of just preventing problems. 3 months later, I received a call that brought everything full circle. The private equity firm that had acquired Pierce Manufacturing after its collapse wanted to meet. They'd heard about my track record at Shaw and were interested in hiring me to turn around their struggling acquisition. We understand you built the original systems, their representative said. The facility has potential but needs experienced leadership. We're prepared to offer substantial compensation. They wanted to pay me $185,000 base salary plus performance bonuses to rebuild what I'd already built once. Perfect irony. They destroyed Dad's work, then offered premium rates for me to recreate it. I'm not interested, I told them. That facility had its opportunity with my systems. They chose differently, Mr. Pierce. Be practical. This could be very profitable. It's not about profit, I said. It's about respect. That place never valued what Dad and I brought to it. I'm not interested in going back to fix their mistakes. But the call that mattered most came from an unexpected source. The private equity firm had decided to liquidate Pierce Manufacturing entirely. Equipment auction, building lease available. Vincent called me with an idea that changed everything again. Rodney, what would you say to buying back your father's company? We restructure as Pierce & Sons Manufacturing. You take 60% ownership, I keep 40%. We hire back the good people and build it right this time. Pierce & Sons, Dad's original name before he simplified it to Pierce Manufacturing. My name on the building where it belonged. The auction was scheduled for a Thursday morning. I walked through the empty facility one last time, remembering Dad showing me every machine, every process, every shortcut that made the difference between theory and results. The building still smelled like cutting oil and metal shavings, still felt like home despite everything that had happened there. We bought everything. The building, equipment, even the old Pierce Manufacturing sign from storage. Carl was the first person I called. We're bringing Pierce & Sons back online. You interested in floor supervisor again? He laughed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Absolutely, he said. Been waiting for this call since the day you left. Half the crew's been asking when you'd come back and fix this mess. I told them to be patient, that you'd figure something out. Within 2 weeks, we had the core team back together. Carl Martinez as floor supervisor. Steve Richardson agreeing to restore our priority supplier status with Richardson Materials. Even some of the younger guys who'd watched the place fall apart were eager to return and learn how manufacturing was supposed to work. The first month was about rebuilding trust. not just with employees, but with customers who'd been burned by the previous management. I spent hours on the phone with purchasing managers, explaining that Pierce & Sons wasn't the same operation they'd had problems with. Different ownership, different management philosophy, same reliability they remembered from the old days. Morrison Industries was skeptical at first. "Your old company left us hanging on 3 separate deliveries," their purchasing manager said. "Cost us production delays and overtime expenses." "What makes this different?" "Because I'm back," I told him. "Same guy who handled your account for 12 years without missing a deadline. Same processes that worked before they brought in consultants to fix what wasn't broken." He gave us a trial order. Small batch, tight deadline, penalty clauses if we missed delivery dates. We delivered 2 days early with 0 defects. The next order was larger, then larger still. Within 6 months, Morrison was back to their old volume levels, and they'd referred 2 other companies to us. Vincent's partnership made all the difference. He understood that rebuilding wasn't just about equipment and processes, but about culture. We implemented profit sharing from day one. Every employee had skin in the game, not just wages, but actual participation in success. When efficiency improved, everyone benefited. When we landed new contracts, bonuses reflected the achievement. Diana found a position as process improvement consultant with a firm in Columbus. Her LinkedIn profile described her experience leading operational transformation initiatives in challenging manufacturing environments. Leading operational transformation initiatives? That's how you describe destroying 18 years of proven systems and getting terminated for incompetence. Some things never change, but her failure became our opportunity. The equipment she'd run into the ground, we rebuilt better than before. The supplier relationships she'd damaged, we restored with improved terms. The customers she'd alienated, we won back with consistent performance. Everything she'd broken became stronger once we fixed it properly. By year 2, Pierce & Sons Manufacturing was operating at capacity. We'd hired 67 employees, including 15 who'd never worked manufacturing before but showed willingness to learn. Carl was training a new generation of floor supervisors using the same hands-on methods Dad had taught me. Real experience, not theoretical frameworks. The manufacturing trade publication ran a feature story about our turnaround. Pierce & Sons, How Traditional Values Beat Modern Theory in Competitive Manufacturing. The article described our success using proven lean principles and experienced leadership. My phone rang for days afterward with industry contacts wanting to understand how we'd achieved such dramatic improvements. Vincent and I were reviewing quarterly reports when he brought up succession planning. "Rodney, I've been thinking about the future. My nephews decided on law school instead of manufacturing. Would you consider full ownership transition over the next 5 years? I keep my 40% equity, but you handle all operations and strategic planning. Full ownership of Dad's company, restored to its original name and values." The Pierce legacy not just preserved but strengthened. Michelle had finished college debt-free and was considering joining the business after graduation. She'd grown up hearing stories about Grandpa's company and wanted to learn the manufacturing trade from the ground up, the way Dad had taught me. Today I'm sitting in Dad's old office at Pierce & Sons Manufacturing, reviewing expansion plans for our automotive division. On the wall is a framed photo of Dad and me standing next to our first production line, the day he officially made me floor supervisor. Next to it hangs the original Pierce & Sons sign from 1975, when Dad first opened the doors. The building hums with that steady rhythm that tells you everything's running properly. Temperature readings consistent, vibration levels within tolerance, delivery schedules on track, quality metrics hitting targets. The same sounds Dad listened for every morning when he walked the floor, checking on his people and his processes. Carl stopped by this morning with production numbers. "We're running 35% above capacity projections," he said. "The automotive contract's generating more volume than we estimated. Might be time to consider that second shift we discussed." Our 67 employees are averaging $3,200 in quarterly bonuses. Not bad for a company that was auctioned off as scrap 18 months ago. That's what happens when you value experience over credentials, relationships over reorganization, and results over theories. When you remember that manufacturing is about making things work, not making presentations look impressive. Pierce & Sons Manufacturing thrives because we never forgot what Dad taught me. Build something solid, keep your promises, respect the people who do the work. The Pierce name means something again in this industry. Quality work, reliable delivery, treating people right. Just like Dad always said it should. And sometimes, if you're patient enough and work hard enough, respect comes back to you. The best revenge against being undervalued isn't proving them wrong. It's building something so successful that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Gordon took early retirement and moved to Florida. Diana's consulting firm handles process optimization for companies that never learned the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. The private equity group that bought Pierce Manufacturing wrote it off as a total loss, but Pierce & Sons Manufacturing is writing a different story, one that started with Dad's vision, survived corporate betrayal, and continues with the next generation ready to learn what real manufacturing looks like. Some things are worth fighting for, some legacies are worth preserving, and sometimes the old ways turn out to be the best ways after all. Experience isn't just what you know, it's what you've learned from every failure, every success, and every relationship you've built along the way. Corporate credentials can get you in the door, but only proven competence keeps you there. The best revenge against being undervalued isn't destroying those who wronged you. It's building something so successful that you become completely independent of their opinion, and they become irrelevant to your story.